exciting because there's less censorship. In fact, there's almost none in that sense. So you can push the limit, in terms of your content, in terms of the stories you want to write, in terms of layering, length, characters, all of it. So I think in that sense, it's pretty cool.
Yes,
absolutely. So we're live on YouTube and we'll start the program in another minute, exactly in 1 minute. So till then, again, Nishtha, over to you.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it, Tanvi.
Yes, thank you. Me too. I'm a little nervous.
You don't have to. Everyone's looking forward to it. We have a lot of students online, a lot of budding. At Shoolini University, we have many budding students. They want to take up filmmaking. They want to do content. You'll be surprised how much video content they generate just with their phones.
I'm sure they're extremely creative, and I'm sure and now is the time, right, with our fancy phones and all kinds of content is being consumed, short, long, user generated. So I think it's an exciting time.
And I will interrupt. It's I think time for us to start. It's 11:30 sharp, and as promised, we should start on time. Some of the advantages of being online rather than offline, where we're always a minute or two late. I hope you'll allow me to start, Nishtha.
Yes, absolutely.
It's wonderful. So good morning, everyone. Good morning to the 30th episode of the Yogananda Guru series. It's been a promise to get inspiring speakers every day to you. And I can't be more excited to have Tanvi Gandhi on our show today. Tanvi, as all of you know, is a very exciting young producer. She's been producing not just short films, but also she's been executive producer to many, many hits. Who hasn't heard of Super 30, Udta Punjab and the likes? So I won't say more. I'm just waiting to hear rather than say, but I'll hand it over to Nishtha Anand to introduce Tanvi and her work. And we'll then get into this fascinating talk by Tanvi Gandhi. Over to you, Nishtha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you so much. And good morning, everybody. I am so looking forward to this session because I have a very dear friend, a very old friend. We go back a long way, Tanvi, who's with me today. So I'm very excited about that. Welcome, Tanvi.
Thank you, Nishtha. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Shoolini University's Yogananda series.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's an honor to be invited, for something you're doing. It's a part of your journey, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. We've started our journey together. We were in college together almost 23 years ago. It's insane. And to now be chatting today, it's a blessing. Thank you for inviting me.
Blessing. Yes. Thanks to technology, we're able to connect together in such different ways.
Absolutely.
And collaborate, right?
Right. That's the future, technology and collaboration.
Absolutely. So just to give everybody a sense of what you do, Tanvi, she started out with television, biggies like NDTV and MTV, where I've seen her do a lot of crackling work, a lot of crackling content. And she also moved on to then do a lot of films, including things like Bombay Velvet, there's Bayan Baja Barat, and Queen, which is, I think, such a cult film. So kudos to you on that, Tanvi.
Thank you.
Not to miss, Tanvi has been the first female executive producer at Yash Raj Films. I think that also speaks a lot about your work, Tanvi, more than anything else. So,
thank you.
It's amazing the kind of journey you had. And recently, I know that you worked with Rani Mukherjee on Mardani. So you've obviously done a lot of female-centric films.
Right.
So, yes, I'd love to hear more about that when we get into our discussion. Right. But talking about films, it's needless to say that there's a film buff in every Indian. Even the most cynical tend to have something to say about Hindi films.
Yes, an opinion.
Everybody has an opinion on films. Right. And in fact, films are such an integral fabric of the Indian society. You don't know whether society influences films or do films influence society. Right.
True. Deeply ingrained song, dance, performance.
Yes.
Just the entire bit. Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you first tell us about your journey since you've had such a wide range of films? Why don't you tell us about your journey?
Thank you, Nishna, first of all, for again, sort of inviting me and letting me share some part of my story. Like you, I began in Delhi, and we were lucky and very fortunate to be in a beautiful college called LSR. I think that allowed us to really bloom and explore our personalities, and it really pushed us to find ourselves and push the bar in terms of trying to be better at everything we do. I think just that college is the gates open, and you all feel extremely challenged in that sense. We finished English honors, then got a lovely opportunity to work in NDTV, where I was an anchor, and I then worked on a TV show called 3 Months PG, which I think somewhere led me to want to get onto the set. I think that was my first exposure on a set, and that's when the germ, I think, got in, that I want to get into entertainment. And I think that led to the move to Bombay. I had a month. I told my dad, just give me a month, please. If I get a job, I'll stick around. If I don't, then I'll take the train back, but just let me go. And because I have an aunt here in Bombay, he said, okay, go stay with her, but like 30 days, please stay tight. And then, I was fortunate. I just initially didn't really manage to get something, and then did, and ended up working in MTV for 5 years. And those were just the most incredible 5 years, so full of creativity and coolness and crazy people. And, again, it pushed you to sort of try and find your expression, however crazy it is. Recession happened, something similar to what we're going through. It's amazing in your lifetime, you've been through two of those. And 2009, I was given the pink slip, and but I don't know, it opened another door of film production, and I sort of nosedived into because that's exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't know whether it was called film production, but I knew that I want to handle films. I want to project head it. I didn't know what it was otherwise. And and that's it. Been 2009 till now, been working on different kinds of films. So it's been exciting.
I think in that spirit, let's show the Super 30 trailer to all our budding youngsters who are watching you today.
Yes, please.
And then we can get into
beautiful film. It's a very inspiring film, very beautiful film.
जी हाँ, इंडिया से, थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्री, चीप लेबर का देश। फिर हम सोचते हैं कि पेप्सिको का वर्ल्ड वाइड हिट कौन है, यूनिलीवर कौन चला रहा है मास्टर कार्ड, वोडाफोन, डॉइच बैंक। अगर किसी को नहीं पता तो गूगल कर लीजिए, और लगे यार ये भी गूगल कर लीजिए कि गूगल का हेड कौन है, वो भी एक इंडियन ही है। क्या बनना चाहते हो?
कमाई तो ऐसे सबसे ज्यादा कंप्यूटर इंजीनियरिंग में है, तो
बन जाएगा।
ये आनंद कुमार जी हैं, ब्रिलियंट टीचर है। ये पढ़ाएंगे आज से आप लोगों को। इन्होंने पढ़ा दिया तो आप वीआईपी लोगों की वीआईपी एंट्री हो गई आईटी में।
आनंद कुमार, मास्टर ब्लास्टर, अब एक्सीडेंट कोचिंग में पढ़ाएंगे।
Y minus 1 is equal to X minus X1।
इतना गलत कैसे हो सकता है भाई?
ऐसा स्टार बनाएंगे आनंद को कि दुनिया देखेगा, करोड़ों कमाएंगे।
आनंद जी अपना सेंटर शुरू किए हैं।
फ्री कोचिंग? आनंद जी, ये चीटिंग है, चीटिंग है ये।
तो किस्मत इन बच्चों के साथ जो किया वो क्या? प्रतिभा दिए, साधन नहीं दिए, चीटिंग नहीं तो और क्या? आशीर्वाद है। पिताजी क्या करते हैं?
ड्राइवरी करते हैं।
कचरे का ट्रक चलाते हैं।
नमक के फैक्ट्री में मजदूरी करते हैं।
पिताजी नहीं हैं।
ये अमीर लोग अपने लिए खूब चिकना सड़क बनाए, हमारी राह में सा बड़ा बड़ा गड्ढा खोद दिए, लेकिन यही वो सबसे बड़ी गलती करती है, हमको साला छलांग लगाना सिखा दिए। जब समय आएगा सबसे बड़ा और सबसे लंबा छलांग हम ही मारेंगे। बायोटेक इंजीनियर, मरीन आर्किटेक्ट, नासा। अरे आज राजा का बेटा राजा नहीं बनेगा, राजा वही बनेगा जो हकदार होगा।
Wow, hair raising, Tanvi. What a super.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a beautiful film, and I think amazing for kids because opportunities. There's a lovely line in the film which says that if you don't knock on the door, it's never going to open. So you have to sort of knock at each door. Only then will opportunities open. So it's out there for everybody. Just go knock on any door.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me not hold you from our lovely audience today. Over to you, and we look forward.
Thank you. So I just thought, since you sort of mentioned, to sort of talk about what's the new normal. We are in unprecedented times at the moment, and what next? I think all of us are wondering what now. Just want to quickly take us through. So I kind of jotted down some stuff that I can think of on top of my head, and yeah, I think what sort of sorry, I'm a little loose. Yeah. So I wanted to quickly take us through what were the traditional forms of entertainment that we're all used to, what began. And, of course, there was theater, there was radio, there was TV, films, cable TV became digital TV, and then the current OTT platform. Theater has always been one of the key things that actually began in various societies. It began in Greece in the 6th century. Amphitheater we've all heard of, seen, and it talks about the social, cultural rituals of every society, and that's why it was very important. People like to gather and see it. So that was originally one of the primary sources of art and entertainment. In India, it was Sanskrit theater, which was again Greek and Roman influence, and again it sort of was about theatrics. Radio, we know, of course, 1920s and 30s, AM, FM, and how radio was about reaching out to different places, and then it was about microwaves, and the transmission happened. And of course, it's AIR, which is in Delhi, and it was one of our first. In fact, in 1923, I believe, the first transmission happened in Bombay. TV, of course, was the big sort of revelation that happened. It was, interestingly, soap operas in the 1930s, they were targeted especially for homemakers and called soap operas because in between they would sort of advertise about cleaning products, and that's why it was called soap operas. It's pretty exciting. In India, 1959 is when Doordarshan came in, the terrestrial TV came in, and with it came obviously a revolution in that sense, because now there was a visual medium to see things. We of course had the different programs which were about agriculture, like Krishti Darshan, and then that led to we all know the Chitrahars, and then it became better programming, and then of course and then there was a big TV boom. Films, the most sought after and the highest form of consuming content and making content. The French Lumiere brothers short film was in 1895, and that kind of documented, because it had a series which was, so that was kind of the first film, I would say, because it had motion picture. In India, it was, of course, Raja Harishchandra by Dada Saheb Phalke, who was a silent Marathi film, and he's obviously known as the father of the Indian film. Cable television, of course, started in 1980s. It was about community transmission, and then when analog moved to digital, then digital TV became really big, and then that led to internet coming in, and then the different kinds of platforms and apps that we have, and of course the internet boom just exploded, and so yeah, these are the different forms that we're all used to. What was, of course, traditionally we were consuming, and our viewership was based on, theater is a pure art form, and so it's intimate, it's personal, and it's smaller in that sense, right? So, and purists sort of go to it. Radio became re-popular with the FM channels getting traction, and somehow on the move, on the go, we had private channels coming in. So then there was better content rather than government or information based or news based. We were focusing on infotainment. Due to globalization, actually, that was an exciting part because when globalization happened in the early 90s, that's when we were all also growing up. And suddenly we were exposed to the Star TV and the Bold and the Beautiful and Banegi Apni Baat, and the programming had changed, and we were also getting exposed to all these international shows and families and drama and emotions. And I think that led to a big wave of the Indian, sort of one section of us decided that that's what we want to do and not engineering or medicine, or I think we digressed and moved that side. And I think that led to initially some very, very great programming, and then obviously mass programming that happened with the Saas Bahu shows. And I mean, they were great in terms of TRPs and viewership, and that itself was unprecedented. But yeah, I would say in terms of content, wasn't all that great. But yeah, we all did watch it when we were young. The sad part is it's still in that space. Films, of course, it's a community event. It's the larger than life experience. It's what families like to do. It's an alternate reality. It's almost like you want to run away from what you do and get into a theater and then just get transported into a new world where you believe you can be the star and you believe you can be romancing, you believe you can be fighting. Of course, in India, there's star worship. The fact that we all just absolutely love our stars is another reason why films just are the ultimate form of entertainment and storytelling. But the internet, actually, with it being affordable and accessible, has sort of become like, just the fact that it's on our mobiles, it's cheap, and in the last years, it's taken over, and how. So it's actually pretty interesting to see how the shift has been, actually. Traditional forms of revenue, how revenue sort of was, how we generated revenues in TV, radio is, of course, we know through advertising spots. So you sort of track what is doing really well through TRPs. For example, in IPL, it was 10 lakhs for 10 seconds because it's the highest viewed and highest watched show. So it's, it's unbelievable the kind of money that sort of generates there. Films, sorry, I've misplaced that, but yeah, 7.4 billion in subscriptions and advertising actually is what one generated in 2019, 18, 19. Films, on the other hand, and this is what is actually very critical, because so far revenue comes from box office, which means your opening, your theater, and your cinema goers, the number of tickets, number of prints, all of that sort of decides the kind of opening or the kind of money your film is going to collect. And roughly 50 to 80% of box office collections is actually what the producer can make. So between that plus satellite plus OTT and others, all of this together is actually what comprises of what revenue one can make on their films. In 2019, it was roughly around 10,000 crore of money that was generated out of the box office, which is huge. Which is essentially why there's one doesn't know how this is going to pan out, because this is the way we have known stardom or the value of a product or of a film or the collections, or just that has been the benchmark. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. In terms of OTT and apps, subscription, video on demand, S-Word, which is Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, it's the most subscribed app, Hotstar, and advertising, which is A-Word, advertising video on demand, which is free, which is MX Player, Woot, those sites. So it is again it has been booming, and it is unbelievable that with the number of people that have access to internet, mobile internet, subscription costs, all of it, that now the fact that we were able to earn about 2150 crores and will only go up. So it's actually the future is sort of tilting towards digital. So, but it's a wait and watch game. In terms of changing trends, now what has actually become interesting, of course, we've had 3 sections to it, which is traditionally what we were doing pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. There are 504 million active internet users in India, which is only 40% of our penetration yet. You can just imagine once, and now with the fact that we're all sitting indoors and there's only access to internet, it is definitely going to go up. In fact, it's already on its way up. Women playing an important part in this, with women owning, their time and hence choice of actually watching what they want to. So yeah, there's huge amounts of potential ahead, and it looks like that is where it's going to go. But again, it's speculation. But some part of it obviously is substantiated with data. In terms of lifestyles, our lifestyles have changed. There's time constraint. There's so much options and so many options out there that at this point in time, I think people are going to really operate on what suits their time. And that's very, very critical, because anyway, life post coming out of the lockdown or however and whenever that happens, I think we're going to have stipulated times, because one will have to probably work from home, manage many other things. So I guess this is a big thing, and general lifestyle in terms of wanting to own everything, and I think and choice. I think it will be interesting to see how that goes. Every single person now has gadgets, and that is interesting, because that means there's individual viewing versus the community viewing. In prime time used to be 9 p.m. because we would all have dinner together, and we would have dad would come home and we'd dinner. Now I guess it's different. We all watch our own things at our own times. We stop it when we want to, and all of it is because we pretty much have our own gadget. Affordability, actually, now more so than ever, we're going to have to figure out how we manage our finances, and any which way the cost of entertainment had become high, versus paying for a bouquet of options with your digital options, right? So somewhere along the way, there could be an effect on how do we look at theater, how do we and how much we go and watch movies, what kind of films do we watch, because it is high overall, and more so now when we'll have to manage everything. Evolving taste, I think, with the access to international content and general access to a world of different options coming out on your phone or internet, I think is absolutely crazy, and it's almost unforgiving. If you don't like something in 5 minutes, you don't want to watch it, and there's no censorship, which means that you're able to push, which leads me to the next point, which is risky content, which is, at the end of the day, there's choice, stimulation, you push limits, you're pushing boundaries. So it's actually very interesting to see that, at the end of the day, we want more, we want things different, and not the usual stuff. And a larger than life experience, so a novel experience, an experience that I've not had before. Whether it's a small sort of triggering emotion or a longer one, but it needs to be new. I think that's very, very critical for the way I feel like trends are sort of changing, and already have been changing, and will only get more defined as we go ahead. Post-pandemic, all these are speculations, analysis, assumptions. We don't, nobody knows anything, to be honest, at the moment. Theaters have closed down, which has been unprecedented. It has never ever happened that the world has shut down and we've shut down our options of stepping out for entertainment or just general hanging out sort of thing. And which then leads to, we don't know whether large gatherings will be allowed, new guidelines will come out, how much can a producer make from that? We have absolutely no idea at the moment. Some theories say that we might end up, once it opens up, I think people will come out in hordes, just the way they came out to get liquor. They might just come out to watch films with full sanitized stuff. So that could be a bigger box office. But again, these are all speculations. We have no idea how it's going to pan out. In fact, at some level, people feel they would like to, they wanted to open just to see, okay, that would be the next step. Because right now one is sort of, facing an abyss. We're in a space where the uncertainty is so high that next steps nobody knows right now. In terms of Netflix and Amazon, the giant over-the-top players are the big survivors, because subscription for them has gone up, their stocks have gone up. More and more people now understand that that's the way they would like to consume content, because that's the only option at the moment. And once it becomes a part of your habit and a part of your outgoings, you stick around. So this is going to be interesting. And how many of the smaller players will we allow? How many of the smaller that will be interesting to see, actually. The traditional players like Disney, that dependent on just box office, theaters, merchandise, franchisee, or theme parks, are struggling at the moment. There's been a drop in their stock prices, and I think they're also waiting and watching. They came out with their film, I believe, straight on digital and I think that was huge. And I guess that might just be the future as well, to figure out whether how much of it will be dependent on large gatherings of people. There's also higher demand for affordable content, as in more apps are coming in, OTT platforms are coming in. You just want more content and at affordable prices. You don't want to pay that kind of money. Netflix at one level is slightly premium. So when you go for the free apps and the free thing, then you just you want content all the time. You don't like it, you want something else. Which just means it's actually a huge opening for people in my industry to be creating content. How we make it, when we make it, we don't know that. But yet the exciting part is the absolute, it seems like it will be a boom. When and how, that is to be watched out for. We don't know yet. Consumer behavior will define next trends also, just because we're now home and, kids are going to be in home longer through the summer. Mothers are here, moms are working, dads are working. I guess all of it will also decide how much, and maybe there's going to be a larger sense of, parents being aware of what their children are watching. So also one will get to know what is the kind of content to make. Maybe they will define what they'd like to watch, what they should not watch, what you should not make. So that will be something to, again, study and to try and understand. Survival of the fittest, again, does the star power change? Because you used to have your big Eid releases. Now you're not going to have the big Eid release. What does that mean? Do our stars still have the same clout, or content goes up and you only chase content? That will be interesting to actually understand whether that actually is the next step. It was already happening in a way. People used to say content is king, but now the fact that you will choose to go to theaters and the big openings may not happen, or how they'll happen, we'll wait and watch how the trend changes in India. Actually, will be interesting. Another thing that I kind of thought would just the kind of new job opportunities that might come in terms of the apps and VFX and marketing and sales. All of that would kind of change, because we'll be inching towards a different kind of consumption. And that'll be interesting to try and see in terms of, more and more apps. I feel technology will become huge. I mean, the fact that mostly everything will be technology related, I think will need a shift in the overall approach to what we make, how we make, and how we sell it, And just the evolution of content and platforms, I think another thing based on speculations and assumptions, this is, I feel like, and this is purely, I'm not authority, but again, this is based on talking to people, a bit of reading, a bit of understanding trends. Short of duration of, content would probably come in. That would be interesting, because time is, of prime importance now. And it's probably more important than even money at one level, because, time is money in that sense. So instead of us spending 40 minutes an episode, you probably will want to get great content in 10 to 20 minutes. And on the move, so bite-sized sort of thing. There's a new app that's gotten launched. It's called QB, and that's only short content, like just 10 minutes and out, 10 minutes and out. And a lot of other apps and a lot of other OTT platforms are planning to go short as well. Limited series, I feel, will come in as well, quite a few, because to be able to be investing that kind of time in tracking and a series and then wait for the next season to come in, whatever, I feel you'd rather just spend a great amount of time in watching 6-7 episodes, great, and then it changes and you move on to something else, because you're constantly watching new options and opportunities to view things any which way. And also just the kind of investment in people, unlike, how Game of Thrones became what it became because we were able to give it that kind of time and all. And I feel maybe moving forward, we may not want to do that, we may want to do something as engaging and huge, but just in and out, again, speculation. Rise of the OTT platforms and apps, and I think more and more people are planning to get into novel content, different kinds of content in short forms and long forms, and because the choice is in our hands, and I think everybody's figured that the world is going to go digital more and more, which is interesting because what does that do to films traditionally? And that is important to understand. Would that mean that we'll still make our films the same way, but they will get announced on our OTT platforms and TV, the same time as whatever limited theaters we'll have, or we'll have all our theaters? But I think Ramayana coming out on DD and becoming the highest viewed show is one example of the reach of television and the OTTs, and just the fact that how wide it has become. So another thing that could potentially happen is your premiere of your film happens straight on TV as well. So that would be interesting. There's of course user-generated content, TikTok and everything else is similar in terms of YouTube, where you create your own content and become who you are. And be accepted and become popular and get your followers is also, I feel like that would also be your next phase, where people will get involved and, use technology and each other and their phones and all of it to create content that is worth watching and, worth expanding. Podcast actually is another thing that's become interesting because with print now, we are not accessing print as much. On the move, you don't need to concentrate as much, but yet you just want to hear information. So news, infotainment, stuff like that is also going to be something that, and it's cheap to do. So whether it could be fiction, non-fiction, I think something that they would definitely be looking at in terms of, I think that's something that people will want. Again, analysis, don't know, but yeah, we think. Films and which is essentially where I my forte and my experience has been in films, and currently it's the biggest affected worldwide. It operates on sheer numbers of just the fact that we operate as teamwork, we operate as a team, and there are that many people involved in the making of a film that currently don't know when we all will regroup to start our next process. It is tricky at the moment. So while we will be making films the same way, maybe it might become smaller, crews, maybe one doesn't know, but how the film releases, where it goes is also up for discussion, because a film like Roma, for example, was a Netflix film, but it got a screening, and it got it was Oscar nominated and won as well. So the scale of digital films is pretty much the same as a theatrical film. So I think the way we will approach releasing it will change, but again, everybody's waiting and watching. One doesn't know what could be the next step, really. In gaming, news, interactive stuff has, gaming is huge, and more people are engaging in interactive stuff. So you never know how that sort of pans out as well. So in terms of the new normal, in terms of what we feel is the future, I think digital for sure, interactive for sure. Films will also go through their journey of being accessible across mediums, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on your theater, whether it's, but maybe at the same time. And how do you generate the revenue? How do you assess the value of a person or a product might change as well. So I think just like everybody else, us who are a tiny part of the industry are all in the waiting and watching game. It's uncertain at the moment, there's a lot of promise of new exciting things, but what the first next step would be, I think everybody is waiting for some kind of announcement to understand what would that be really. And at the end of the day, entertainment in the end is a food industry for feeling, and which is why it will always stay as a parallel sort of universe that will exist, and it has from time immemorial, because you need entertainment to survive these times, to survive any time, and that's why performing arts any form of expression, a creative expression, is regarded high in in terms of art form, because there's posterity in it. That lives beyond you, and I think in that sense, one is also going to push as much to create better content, different content, and it's all pushed us to try and see what new can come out of this and what new can we think. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I had jotted down and shared.
Excellent. This is so exciting. I'm seeing
Thank you.
actually, I think all of us are seeing the way content and entertainment has changed in these times, COVID times.
Right. Sorry, let me just, yeah.
Great. So it's actually been very, very interesting to see how digital content has completely changed.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. And
rapidly adapted to the change.
It was always around, to be honest, Nishtha, but I think considering now we've gotten the time in a way also to try and explore the various apps and, platforms that are available and the kind of content, and it's catering to everybody, and it's catering to every kind of choice, whether it's documentaries or short form or long forms or, just entertainment or news or whatever. I think there's so much out there that it's pushing everybody actually to try and see how do we stay relevant. It's important to stay relevant, right? In terms of because our tastes are going to change, our tastes are changing, it's ever evolving. And I always think that the generation that grew up on Game of Thrones, can you imagine, it came out in 2011, and kids that are today 21, 22 have already watched all of it. So you can just imagine how their brain, their minds have already expanded in terms of storytelling, in terms of costumes, drama, so you've got to really push for all kinds of content.
Absolutely. So let me just, there are lots of questions coming in, Tanvi.
Right.
So I'd like to get started with some things I had in mind while I was listening to you. One is what is the form of storytelling that we're looking at in the next 5 years? Do you think it will stay Bollywood? We're seeing a lot of realistic cinema, but what are you seeing in the coming 5 years?
It's interesting to say, or to be honest, it's going to be very, very exciting to see how our brains will think of stories in the next 5 years, because what we are currently going through, Nishtha, is nobody's ever gone through this before in modern history, right? So I'm also excited. I mean, genuinely, I think I'm also curious to see what this would do to a writing mind, right? Whether we come out hopeful, whether we come out darker, whether this would lead to thoughts that are even more crazy. You never know, because I realized that Contagion was the only film that really spoke about something like this, about 9 years ago, right? We've not even addressed that a world could shut down, all of us would be, so yes. I'm also wondering, to be honest, to understand what kind of stories will we see. Will we really push our own minds to come up with even more exciting stuff, even more crazier stuff? Yes. But I feel, yes, it's probably going to range from realistic to emotional. I feel a lot of us have also somewhere lot of us or whoever has connected with some part of our inner self, right? During this time, there's been a lot of time of introspection, and at least some bit of the population may have achieved some part of that. Why are we like, some questions got answered. So maybe that translates into some kind of more human stories, simpler stories, connecting with each other as people again. So that'll be exciting. The other part could really be that, listen, now anything is possible. The world shut down. We never thought that is possible. So you never know where those stories could go, right? Where you could be now communicating, sitting on Saturn, and you never know what stories now come out where it could mean we've reached wherever, or I don't know. So, but yes, it will be realistic, it will be futuristic, and it will be human. I think a lot more human will come in.
That'll be great. That'll be great. And what about, let's talk about the big ticket films. How's that journey been? What's the experience like? What's it like being on a set with all these huge stars? Do take us to some insights.
It's actually, okay, so let's just say, for me personally, I feel like if you're not in awe or if you're not starstruck, it's just easier to do the work that you do. Because, we've all grown up watching these films. We've grown up seeing the stars somewhere, wanting to be like somebody, wanting to be romanced by somebody, or wanting to be a heroine like somebody, wanting to wear clothes like somebody. We've all, as Indians, have just loved somebody or the other. So on set, I feel, so I was fortunate enough to spend a considerable amount of time with Rani Mukherjee on Mardani 2. And she's one of the earlier stars, right? She's a superstar, but from the 90s and early 2000s. And then I've been fortunate enough to spend time with, let's say, Tanveer on Bombay Velvet. And the big similarity that I find in both, even in Hrithik Roshan or whatever, is the absolute passion. My God, they are absolutely dedicated, passionate about themselves, the shot, the film, the entire film in totality. And I think their involvement is tremendous, and just their sense of ownership of the project. I think that I found was very, very exciting and very interesting. And it's almost like a learning, right? That even if you're not in a scene, or even if you're not part of certain sequence, but you're fully involved and you want to know how that affects the entire story. So that's very, very exciting. But the difference, one thing that I felt was with difference of what I liked about Ranveer really was that he's really chill. He's very easy, and he sort of treats you as a technician behind the camera, and he's a technician in front. And I think that's very, I approach that. He's like you don't feel like he's a star, and that's nice. That's cool. But in terms of, let's say, Hrithik Roshan and Rani both, you're literally sitting there watching them perform because they are so superlative. But they have a little bit of, we're stars.
Well, I think that they deserve that.
Deservedly so. Really, really.
But I think it shows in their craft, the kind of
details they absolutely too dedicated and too superior in their overall ownership of their craft, really. Yes.
Yeah. And any fun moment from one of your sets? Then I'll go into the questions that our viewers have put up.
Yes, so we have crazy. I mean, every day on a film set is like a new day. It's madness because it's about dealing with people energy, people management, 200 to 300 people on a large day, 100 to 200 on a small day. You're just dealing with people at all points. And there's a location issue, there's a transport issue, there's a food issue, there's an actor who's fallen sick, and you just have to constantly find solutions and ensure that your team is shooting, find a creative option if you can't do something that was as per plan, and move on to the next thing, and so you're pretty much on your feet at all points, and your brain is just it's only like forward planning, current planning, figuring out what happened yesterday. It's relentless in that sense. But in terms of fun moment, we have fun and not such fun times every day almost. So, but one thing that I can think of right now is just simple that, Queen, for example, was really lovely. Queen, by the way, was a very small crew that shot in Paris and Amsterdam, and we never had any changing vans or catering vans, nothing. So in Paris, it was so exciting with, a person like Kangna, who then was not the big star that she is today. But we would change in cafes, go into the cafe bathroom, change costume, do makeup, come out, and then go to different cafes, and the entire crew is eating lunch. It was like a party. We had so much fun making that film. It didn't seem like we were making film, and that's why probably it even turned out the way it did. It was just organic, it was flowing, and we don't feel like having this today. Let's go and have food somewhere in a cafe. Like, movie was being shot along the way. We were just focusing on khana kya khana hai, kis cafe mein khana hai, and it was quite cool. Udta Punjab was another very exciting film, Nishtha. It was a tough film in terms of shooting in Punjab and the subject, and we had 4 big stars. But it was a challenging and a beautiful film in terms of, as a part of my, filmography, and just the kind of crew we had, the kind of hard work we did. I think, we were shooting in a place called Taran, which is about an hour away or less than that from Amritsar. And that was the hub of militancy at one point in Punjab. And, just to see us women, because normally I have a nice, thick women crew with walkie-talkies and walking on the streets of Taran was actually quite exciting. Everybody was like, a few years ago, no woman was allowed to step out. And today we have women who are shooting a film there. So that felt really good.
Wow, that must have been quite something.
That was good, yeah.
Thanks for giving such lovely insights into the sweat that actually goes into it.
Yes, it is. Sometimes you won't even realize for a 30-second shot, we take 2 days, and the kind of crew that comes in, maybe, it's a very tough technical shoot with, action, whatever. You won't even believe the kind of infrastructure and logistics that go into achieving just a 30-second shot. It's actually mind-boggling in a way.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the questions that our viewers have for you.
Right.
The most important, because of course we have so many students who are listening to you.
Right.
They all dream, a lot of them of course dream of going to Bombay and taking up filmmaking or acting or whatever it is. So right. I know how you've kind of, identified your place in the industry. So how do you think students can, what is a good start for somebody who's aspiring to get into films?
I think, Nishtha, first of all, I'm very excited because there'll be a fresh lot of young, budding, creative people that will come in as soon as the industry opens up, which is exciting because there's so much work that will happen. Currently, we're going through a full development stage, and everybody's excited to put together things because it'll open up at some point, and then I'm sure there'll be a lot of work. Unlike our times where we did not have anybody guiding us, or it was unstructured at one point when I came to Bombay. It was also unsafe. You kind of needed to figure out who do you want to work with, what type of a company, what type of people. Let me assure you, things are very, very different now. So I think students should, at the end of the day, come to Bombay for sure, because this is where it's the hub. You want to give it a shot for sure. Whether one ends up staying on or not is a separate matter, but I feel like everybody should come in and give it a shot to try and follow their dreams, and this is where it should be. In terms of now there are a lot of companies that do a call for interns for young people who are out of universities and colleges. So they'll have to be prepared for their first or second job to be literally of a runner. They will feel like, I'm not doing anything creative and I've studied so much, I've come first, but how come I'm not getting to participate? I think the main idea for all students and anybody and everybody is to understand that everything is on the job. You might theoretically understand and learn, which you must and you should finish your education, theoretically, but there is no training like being on a set, practical, because every situation and every person, every day is different. How do you tackle it? So what being on a film set or on any set teaches you is people management, stress management, management of time, and how do you find solutions? Because you cannot let your 12 hours go. You know, money is at stake, the producer's money is at stake. You've got to deliver. There are so many combinations of location and actors and looks and makeup. You know, it's too many things. So you've got to be on your feet and on your toes to think of how do we achieve the day? We cannot lose it. We can't. So you can only understand that if you're on the film. So when young students come in, I think it's important to just come prepared that yes, for the first 2 projects, maybe I'm not going to earn the money I need to survive in Bombay. I'm going to do work that I feel like is below my dignity, but there is no work below your dignity, trust me. And I think all of us have figured that out after this lockdown to respect every single person that is helping us lead better lives. You know, so no work is low. So they must come in, and you know, there are avenues now. People are asking for resumes to come in. People check CVs. So there will be options for sure. That's how we operate now, pretty much. It's become systematic. Yeah.
It's fabulous, actually.
So,
yeah.
Yes. And you know, even as a university, maybe you could reach out to a few key production houses and, you know, touch base with them to say that your students would want to come in and maybe they can be placed. You know, maybe they can get their internship there. You never know if you connect with HR of a few companies, that could work out. But there, it's safer, it's cleaner. We have all kinds of, I think, you know, young students, when men and women both should come in soon.
Absolutely, they're looking forward to it.
Right.
Another question, Tanvi, is around the changing content. There's a lot of content that would typically be censored on the big screen is now available.
Right.
Do you think the Indian market is ready for it?
Well, you know, we already are watching. So there's obviously a range of stuff, which is from extreme violence and action to you know, sex and titillation and all of it. So of course we are working outside of the censorship parameters. So you kind of push the stories and characters in that sense. I think yes. I mean, we are all ready for it, but I feel like we should also not. I think it's also important to try and balance, and not everything has to be over dark and over pushed. Layered, yes, because I think human beings are gray and not black or white. So various shades of gray would help versus going very dark. However, I think there are just, the options are out there, the avenues are out there, and I think the stories will also open up as much. And I think, yeah, we are ready. We are ready, but we have to be responsible in terms of what we say and what we consume, because our large part of our population is still illiterate. It's still highly, you know, you can influence them very quickly. I think the ability to make your own mind and just generally follow the trend is a bit high. So I think people have to be responsible, both the makers of content and even the consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very critical thing. And
yeah.
I'm sure along the way, I think that's something we're all still learning.
Absolutely. And it's going to be evolving like that. You know how it is, Nishta. I think it's organic, it's evolving. And you'll also know, like, something like this did not do well. This was not, you know, also because our feedback is so instant, it's real time. So that just sort of helps in deciding, okay, let's say in terms of digital content, at least, you know, okay, this season did well this way. So let's try and do next season in a certain way because the public reacted or wanted. That doesn't happen in films, right? Because at least with series, you sort of, you know, your next writing can depend on how the first season was received. But a film gets made and that's a one-time experience, and that has got its own beauty because you don't go there for feedback or interact. You just go there to watch a great experience, and that's that. But yes, I think we have evolved to interactive content, and therefore, yeah, it's going to be a bit of all that.
Awesome. Also, another question coming in that we were expecting to see films launch on digital. but that's not happened. So are these guys going to launch their films later? I'm sure there must be films ready, or
big ones were ready, obviously they were all lined up. And what happens is you pretty much way in advance, almost a year in advance, you try and block your Fridays, right? So you don't clash with other films and you get enough time at the box office, clean and clear week, at least more than a week almost, So that's what I'm saying. I think at this point, at least from my conversations with a few people, they don't know what to do right now. I think it's a wait and watch game. Maybe just a little bit more patience to understand, should they go for the big launch on OTT? But then again, how do you make the money, right? I think all of this will have to be restructured, and how do you recover the massive costs of such big films that I think we will have to figure out. Even in Hollywood right now, they're trying to figure what they could do, right? I think the Disney Trolls got released online, and I think it did well. So maybe that could be the next thing. But I think who will bell the cat first, who's going to do it first, could be the waiting game. But I feel it probably would, because like I was mentioning earlier also, between OTT, TV and films, theater, maybe it'll be a launch all across. But the producer has to decide. They have to make the money. They've put in a lot of money.
Yes, it's a tough call.
It's a tough call.
Yeah. Another question coming in, Tanvi. What challenges have you faced in this journey so far, and how did you take them? Let's just say that it's not been easy, but I think it's also dependent on how you make your journey, right? I think it was such a learning on the job, and it was such a trial and error game for me, because I think being the one of the first generation Indians, Nishta, you would also be the same generation as me, as people who went into media and entertainment. We did not really have too many people we could understand things from, learn from, speak to, because there wasn't, and the industry was not structured enough to have, at least we didn't know who we could speak to really, and it was not a safe space. Our parents were worried about us going to Bombay and, entering the big bad world of movies, and, it was really paving our own way and figuring out. And I'll be honest with you, I think it brings out the worst in you. It brings out the good in you. You don't know, because you don't know how you are to react in certain situations, right? Because they're tough calls. You have to take calls which are dependent on money, on people, and so you're always treading this path of, did I do the right thing? Am I okay? Should I do it this way? Can I understand? So you're constantly, at least that has been. Today I feel far more in control of what I say, what I do, but it's not been something that just came, right? You got to learn every day. The biggest challenge, in a way, that I initially did feel was, though personally for me, I've never really had that journey of proving myself to be a woman, and that but yes, the subtle thing of being a person from a decent education background, and maybe single, there's a certain perception that does come to you, which is probably not overt, but you're aware of the fact that people could talk and think about her. She's come there because she knows somebody, she must be with somebody, usko aata bhi nahi hoga. You've had that at all points. It's sort of at your subconscious, you hear it and then you just choose not to, because women, unfortunately, will have to continue proving to the world around that they are better, if not as good. Because I feel like it's a preconceived notion to think that somebody who's this is through contacts. ये तो इसके हुआ, इनको कैसे आता होगा, इन्होंने मेहनत कहाँ की होगी, इन्होंने, a bit of all that does sort of happen. But you've got to be thick-skinned, yeah. You have to be thick-skinned anywhere. That's the way it is. And especially in a place like Bombay, you've got to be competent, you have to be. But it's toxic in many ways. So you've got to figure out a way where it just doesn't touch you. You just keep walking and it just goes, because you can't let it. That's the only thing. You just get, build your armor and just go shooting. That's what you can do. But I think for the next generation, hopefully there'll be more lady bosses like you, Tanvi, to handhold them.
Yeah, yes, I think there's a large female workforce in Bollywood and in the Indian film industry, both, of course, in Bombay more than other regional areas. But yes, I think the new generation would actually love it because it's pretty cool. I think there are a lot of women handling very key positions and key decision-making positions in films, and that's very, very exciting.
Yes, that's I think very, very good. Good news
Yes,
for everybody,
yes,
and
yes,
especially for these youngsters. I'm sure it's
yes,
great.
yes. And I think, at the end of the day, I feel, Nishta, a person should be on the job because he or she both are meant to get into. You know what I mean? It should not be gender-based at all. It should be on competence, absolutely. And hence, traditionally, production was looked at as a male job. Because you had to be in different kinds of terrain, you had to talk to different kinds of vendors, you had to talk to all strata of kind of people. But if you're passionate about what you do and you know it's to be done for the job to get the film made, and you as the pivotal center point of any film, the EP or the producer, then you've got to do the job. It's going to be tough. It's going to have erratic timings, lifestyle. You're going to mess up a lot of things because it's not regular in terms of your timings and lifestyle. But at least at the end of the day, you're doing it because it needs to be done and it's coming out of passion, really.
This has been so great, Tanvi. I think what you said, it rings a bell with so many women and so many people, even otherwise, those who are sidelined.
Thank you. And I want all the students to come in and, Sorry, I think there's, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Tanvi.
Sorry, I think my internet connection is a bit unstable. No, sorry, I just wanted to say that I don't know how much was heard, but really I'd like to wish all the students all the best. And, the future of content is huge. I mean, its potential is huge. We'll only be consuming more and more and it'll only get exciting. So do well at the university, get great marks, because trust me, you will miss being in university once you're out there in the big bad world. So make the most of being in a closed environment where you're getting to learn so much and talk to people and create good stuff. And then come on to the beautiful world of making movies and content and digital stuff. And it's too exciting.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Tanvi, for such a fascinating talk.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Atul had to leave for something very, very urgent.
Sure. Please say my
time.
Thank you. I did too. I was nervous, but I think it went off okay.
Yes, of course. Everybody loved it. Thank you so much for the lovely talk. And we look forward to seeing you in the campus now.
Yes. I would love to as soon as things open up. First stop, Himachal.
Absolutely.
The mountains. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Nisha.
Thank you so much.
And all the best of the students.
Thank you all our viewers as well. And look forward to seeing you tomorrow again at 11:30 with another great speaker. Thank you, Tanvi.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.